By someone to attend the monthly meeting of the Assurance, Audit and Risk Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber at Monday 23rd of June at 4 p.m. And I will hand over to Denise to take the notice and summons the meeting, or the attendance. Apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. I'll just proceed with the roll. Alderman Darren Guy.
Online.
Alderman Keith Kerrigan. Yeah. Councillor Raymond Barr.
Online.
Councillor Amanda Clark. Sure. Councillor Caitlin Deaney. Councillor Gary Donnelly.
Unshot.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Unshot.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Unshot.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Unshot.
Councillor Patricia Logue. Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Declan Morris.
Here, Denise.
Councillor Martin Riley.
Online, Denise.
Councillor Brian Tierney.
Here, Denise.
Thank you, members. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, members. Broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. Broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with the protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of these images for broadcasting or training purposes, and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making these records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website, www.derrystheland.com. Members, item 4 is declaration of members' interests. If anyone has a declaration which they wish to raise at this stage, or raise it as we come to the item. Don't see anyone, so in that regard, we'll move on to item 5, which is chairperson's business. I'm content I don't have anything and no one's raised anything, so we will move on from that on to item 6, which is the matters arising from the open minutes of the Assurance Audit Risk Committee held on Monday the 19th of May. Is there any matters arising which wish to be raised, members? No matters arising, members. In that case, we will move on then to item 7, which is our annual governance statement for 24-25, and that'll be Denise to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to seek your endorsement for Council's annual governance statement for the financial year 24-25. The Council has prepared an annual governance statement which is consistent with the principles of the SIFA SOLAS framework delivering good governance and local government. This statement explains how the Council meets the requirements of the local government accounts and audit regulations in relation to the publication of a statement on internal control. Council's governance framework comprises the systems and processes and cultures and values by which the Council is directed and controlled, and its activities through which it accounts to, engage with and leads the community. It enables the Council to monitor the achievement of its strategic objectives and to consider whether those objectives have led to the delivery of appropriate cost-effective services. As part of the process of preparing each year's annual governance statement, the Chief Executive, Directors and Heads of Service Lead Officers are asked to consider the most significant governance issues that require action and disclosure. The most significant issues for the Council are detailed in the table below, which highlights the governance issues, the controls in place and the proposed action being taken to deal with the issue. Members, I would just refer you to the report in terms of the significant governance issues. This year we have 4 significant governance issues declared in our annual governance statement. They're all detailed there in the report for you with the current controls and the proposed actions, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments on them. Thank you.
Members, I'm looking for any questions or comments, and ultimately a proposer and seconder if it's the mind of the meeting. So does anyone wish to pass any comment? Councillor Norris. Proposed by Councillor Norris, seconded by Councillor Clark. No other comments, members, in regards to item 7? Nope. Yes, that's item 7. Moving on then, members, to item 8, which is the Code of Governance for 24-25, and that'll be James to take us through it.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek members' endorsement of Derry City and Strabane District Council's Code of Governance for the financial year 24-25. The SIFA SOLAS Delivering Good Governance in Local Government framework was published in 2016 and represents best practice for developing and maintaining a local code of governance and making adopted practice, open and explicit. Derry City and Strabane District Council is committed to the principles of good governance and has developed a local code of governance as a public statement of that commitment. Derry City and Strabane District Council is committed to the core of supporting principles of good governance set out within the CIFA SOLAS framework. The Council's local code of governance is supported by the systems, processes and documents that determine and control the way in which the Council manages its affairs. There are no implications arising from this report, and it is recommended that members approve the Council's Code of Governance 24-25 attached to Appendix C. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Members, you have the report there. Item 8, the Code of Governance. Does anyone wish to pass comment, or does anyone wish to propose and second the item? Is that proposed by Councillor Clark and seconded by Councillor Norris? And no other comments, members? In that case, we'll deem that item approved. Item 9 then is the counter fraud, raising concerns and anti-bribery policies, and that'll be Denise to minister it.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to seek your comments and approvals on the updated Council's counter fraud, raising concerns and anti-bribery policies. Members, you will be aware that the policies were last reviewed and approved by this committee back in December 2020 and therefore are due to be reviewed and updated again in accordance with best practice. In December 2020, the 3 policies were amalgamated into one document, and the rationale was to have these interrelated policies unified for ease of use. However, our most recent review found that the document had become quite large and unwieldy and not as user-friendly as we had hoped. The objective of the recent review was therefore not just to ensure that the policies kept in line with best practice guidance, but to make them more user-friendly and to strengthen the policies and make it easier for people to use them. In order to achieve this, we felt it would be better to return to 3 separate policies. The policies have therefore been reviewed and updated, taking into account all recent best practice guidance, and are presented to members today for your approval. All policies have been screened and all the implications are detailed in the screening documents attached. So members, it's recommended that you approve the policies today, but happy to take any comments or questions on them. Thank you.
Members, you have the reports in front of you there in regards to item 9. Does anyone wish to pass comment on item 9? Or if not, do we have a proposer and a seconder? Proposed by Councillor Norris, seconded by Councillor Leonard. Content, members? That then is item 9 then has been approved. Item 10 is our internal audit reports, and that'll be Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update members on the internal audit work completed within Derry City and Strabane District Council in the period May to June 2025. The following audit work has been finalised recently. Internal audit of Derry and Strabane Labour Market Partnership for the 24-25 financial year, attached at Appendix J, and other internal audit work. The internal audit of Derry and Strabane Labour Market Partnership. This audit was requested by the Labour Market Partnership Manager to comply with the requirement within the LMP financial guidelines and funding agreement to have an internal audit carried out, and as such was agreed as part of the 25-26 internal annual audit plan of work. Derry and Strabane LMP is funded by the Department for Communities. It is the Council's Chief Executive who is the accounting officer for the funding provided for the LMP. The LMP is required to comply with the accountability framework set out by DFC in its financial guidelines. Derry and Strabane LMP was established during 21-22 financial year, and the 24-25 financial year was the 4th year of the partnership. Letters of offer for funding are as outlined in paragraph 3.1.3 for this financial year that we're dealing with. It should be noted that this is the first time this funding extends beyond the end of a financial year, that is up to the 30th of June 25. The internal audit report, as per the financial procedures, is due to be presented to DFC prior to the 30th of June 2025. Therefore, it's important to outline that any testing undertaken is limited to the time frame of the audit review and does not cover the period up to the 30th of June. Internal audit reviewed the risk management, control and governance arrangements for Derry and Strabane LMP, the LMP admin and operational expenditure, purchasing, procurement and contract service level arrangements in place. Internal audit was satisfied with the corporate governance and control arrangements in relation to the areas detailed at paragraphs 3.1.5 and areas in relation to expenditure outlined at paragraph 3.1.6. In addition, internal audit is satisfied that of the 6 outstanding internal audit recommendations made previously, 5 from last year's internal audit report and 1 from the previous internal audit report, 5 are now fully implemented and 1 partially implemented. The partially implemented recommendation was about ensuring that all LMP staff receive fraud awareness training. Internal audit have made 5 recommendations to improve the control environment going forward. The key priority 1 recommendations relate to improving the control environment in the following areas: quorum at LMP meetings, authorisation of purchase orders, completion of single tender action form, and authorised signatory on contracts. While some control weaknesses were identified across the areas under review, internal audit is satisfied that overall there are adequate controls in place to manage risks within each area and that these controls were operating effectively. As a result, this audit has been given the assurance level of satisfactory, which is the highest level achievable. Internal audit have noted that management have responded positively to the recommendations raised, and the table of recommendations with implementation dates is included in the report, which is attached at Appendix J for information. Other internal audit work. At the March 2024 Assurance Audit and Risk Committee, it was agreed to build a prior year recommendations reporting process into the existing governance framework. Internal audit have coordinated this process, and the report is presented at today's meeting under agenda item K, which will come to later in the meeting. Internal audit also continued to be available across the Council to carry out reviews of financial governance and operational arrangements as required, working with management to ensure that they considered the risks and controls associated with any new or changed to processes. There are no implications arising as a result of this business, and it is recommended to seek members' endorsement of the internal audit report, but happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Councillor Clark.
Yep, thank you for letting me in. Look, it's just in relation to 3.1.7, and I understand that there were 6 outstanding recommendations and 5 have been achieved, which is excellent. I see there's still 1 partially implemented. So I was just wondering about the training. Is that planned, and what's the time frame for completing that?
Yep. So it's fraud awareness training, which internal audit section roll out. So we roll that out throughout the year. It's just the sessions that we held didn't suit the dates, just didn't suit the 2 people on that occasion, but they're on our waiting list for the next time we roll out training. Then we'll contact them, and we'll keep contacting them as we roll out training until they attend.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Any other comments, members, in regards to item 10? If not, I would take a proposer and a seconder for the said item. Councillor Clark and
Happy to second.
Councillor Leonard. Yep. Happy enough then, members? In that case, we will move on to item 11, which is the prior year recommendations report, and that again will be Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this prior year recommendations report is to provide assurance to the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee on progress on the implementation of outstanding internal audit recommendations. As I said there just previously, at the March 2024 Assurance Audit and Risk Committee, it was agreed to build a prior year recommendation reporting process into the existing governance framework. As part of this process, for priority 1 internal audit recommendations, it was agreed that a prior year recommendations report would be provided annually at the June Assurance Audit and Risk Committee, together with the annual governance statement and associated reports. The progress on the implementation of recommendations was provided by management as part of their returns of annual head of service and lead officer assurance statements. Updates were sought from management on each of the remaining outstanding priority 1 recommendations. The table of pages 340 to 342 of your pack shows a summary position of the overdue priority 1 recommendations per department relating to audits with a satisfactory audit opinion that are not subject to an annual audit review. Further details on the status of each of these recommendations, including new proposed implementation dates, are included at Appendix K. There are no implications as a result of this work, and it is recommended that members note the contents of this report. Happy to take any questions. Thanks, Chair.
I have Brona there online. Brona, if you wish to raise your comments.
Thank you, Chair. Just waiting for the video to come through. Thank you, and thank you, Deborah, for that report. It's great to see us getting the report, and it's very useful. It gives a lot of assurance to the Audit Committee that the internal audit recommendations are actually being implemented, which is great. Just wanted to check Deborah, how far back you go in relation to the priority one recommendations? Like how many years is this covering going back? Because I know it will be going forward, but if you could give us that detail, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Brona, for your question. In relation to this monitor, it's an ongoing monitor. So as we issue an audit, then we update the monitor. So the last year was the first year that we put it into place. And at that stage, the decision was taken to take the cut-off period as a period after COVID, because during COVID, our audit plan at that stage was changed during the COVID year to a lot more advisory work. So we commenced the year after COVID. So it was 22-23 financial year that they did back to.
You're content, Bruna, with the response?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Deborah.
Any other comments then, members, in regards to item 11, the prior year recommendations? If not, I would require a proposer and seconder for said item. Councillor Norris, thank you.
Just, I won't second it, but see, just partially implemented. How partially implemented are they? Are they 80% of the way, or would you have any?
It just depends really on the recommendation itself. So that the details on that attached appendix. So like if we've recommended something, we wouldn't sign it off from an audit point of view until we see all the evidence as fully implemented. So if it's not, you know, if we don't regard it as fully, then it'll go either partially or not implemented.
Right. Okay. Second it.
Content. Thank you very much, Patricia. As proposed by Councillor Norris, second by Councillor Logue. That would be moving on then, members, to item 12. And again, that will be Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to seek members' endorsement of the Council's annual audit opinion for the 24-25 financial year attached at Appendix L. For the financial year 24-25, in accordance with the Public Sector Internal Audit Standards, Chief Audit Executive must deliver an annual internal audit opinion and report that can be used by the organisation to inform its governance statement. The annual internal audit opinion must conclude on the overall adequacy and effectiveness of the organisation's framework of governance, risk management and control. The annual report must incorporate the opinion, a summary of the work that supports the opinion, a statement of conformance with the Public Sector Internal Audit Standards and the results of the Quality Assurance and Improvement Programme. On the basis of the work carried out, internal audit can provide a satisfactory level of assurance that the Council's control environment is adequate and effective. That is, the satisfactory assurance can be obtained from the governance systems and procedures in place. Please note, for the annual audit report, the two possible annual audit opinions are either satisfactory or unsatisfactory. This satisfactory opinion is a positive assessment of the Council's control environment and reflects favourably on the organisation's governance arrangements. This opinion is based upon the work of the internal audit section over the 24-25 financial year. An internal audit plan for the 24-25 financial year was approved by the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee in March 24, and one amendment to this plan was approved by the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee in February 25. Further details of this audit plan are included in Appendix A of the Annual Audit Opinion Report. A new audit plan has been developed for 25-26 and was approved by the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee in March 25. The audit plan was not completed in full for the 24-25. However, the internal audit manager is satisfied that a significant amount of assurance work was carried out and the associated reports were provided to the committee in high-risk areas facing the organisation. The internal audit section is a small section in Council, and the objective of this section has been, with the finite resources available, to provide members of the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee with assurances that they require in a timely manner on the management of the key current corporate risks. In any large and complex organisation, it is unlikely that the internal audit plan will remain unchanged over the course of a year, and it's never the priority of internal audit to complete the audit plan at the expense of its relevance. The internal audit section will continue to be pragmatic in its approach and will continue to provide progress updates on the completion of future plans to committee. In preparing the overall opinion, the internal audit manager has reviewed all audit and risk activity carried out in the period April to March 25 and has placed some reliance on the work carried out by external audit, and the general level of control remains satisfactory. There are no implications arising as a result of this report. and it's recommended that members approve the annual audit report for Derry City and Strabane District Council for the 24-25 financial year attached at Appendix K. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Deborah. Any questions in regards to item 12, the annual audit reports? Brona, go on ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Deborah, for the report. It's a comment more than a question. It's just a well done involved in getting a satisfactory result. It's really good to see that and that things are operating so well. So thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Brona. And Councillor Leonard.
Thank you, Chair. Just also to echo our thanks to internal audit staff for the work that they do. Really, you mentioned there are a small number of resources. You're putting out some amount of work, so fair play to everybody, and encourage everybody in the council to cooperate with internal audit in any areas that they need a wee bit of attention. So I'm happy to propose that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Leonard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Norris. We're content, members. There's no other comments. In that regard, we'll deem that item 12 as proposed, Councillor Leonard, second to Councillor Norris, and deemed approved. Item 13 then, members, is the peer review of internal audit, and that again will be Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update members in relation to the external review carried out of the internal audit section attached to the Appendix M. The Chartered Institute of Internal Auditor Standards and Public Sector Internal Audit Standards require the Chief Internal Auditor to develop and maintain a quality assurance and improvement programme that covers all aspects of the internal audit activity and which must include both periodic internal self-assessments and 5-year external assessments. Since the formation of the new council, the internal audit section has completed and presented to the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee an annual self-assessment against the public sector internal audit standards. In addition, the last external peer review was completed and presented to the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee in November 2019. To comply with the standards, the internal audit section was subject to a further external review during 24-25. Members will recall that at the Assurance Audit and Risk Committee meeting on 19th of March 24, the committee approved the option of a peer review of the internal audit section by the internal audit manager from Armagh City, Banbridge and Craigavon Borough Council. The principal aim of the assignment was to undertake an assessment of Derry City and Strabane District Council's internal audit service in compliance with the requirements of the public sector internal audit standards. Furthermore, it was agreed that the results of the peer review would be reported to a future meeting of this committee. Evidence established was used to form an opinion as to the level of compliance of internal audit with each of the standards. For each standard, a series of statements of good practice are provided as a guide in determining the performance of the service. Against this, an assessment was made as to the degree of conformance using the following scale aligned with public sector internal audit standards. That is, fully conforms, generally conforms, partially conforms, or does not conform. The overall conclusions were that Derry City and Strabane District Council internal audit section fully conforms in 12 of the standards and generally conforms in 1 of the standards, as per the table in page 4 of the peer review report attached at Appendix L. The review found no instances of non-conformance during the assessment. The review concluded that overall, on the basis of the review, the Council can be satisfied that its internal audit service provides a high quality and professional service which adds value to the assurance framework. The review found strong evidence that the internal audit function is valued highly. It is viewed as making a positive contribution to the continuous improvement of governance, risk management and internal control in the Council, as demonstrated by the completed questionnaires received. Other examples of exemplary practice are outlined as per paragraph 3.5. One recommendation for improvement was made to enhance compliance to the standards further, and this is set out in the action plan at Appendix 1 of the report. In addition, a number of minor improvements have been highlighted. It should be noted that these do not impact on the assessment of compliance with the standard. They are set out in Appendix 2 of the report. The full report is attached at Appendix L for information. There are no implications as a result of this work, and it's recommended to seek members' comments on and endorsement of the external review report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Deborah. Any comments from members? Brona, go on ahead.
Oops. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Deborah, again for the report. And well done again to everybody involved. It's great to see the full conformance on the 12 out of the 13. That's excellent work. My question refers to the one in relation to the general conformance. And if members can see page 450 of the pack, the recommendation is that there should be some strengthening around the independence of the internal audit and reviewing the administrative reporting lines. And I was just seeking more information as to what officers think in relation to that as a way forward, and if that's something that's possible to be done. I appreciate completely this reporting structures within a council and how they operate. So just some more information in relation to that. And also the minor improvement identified where it's suggesting that there's an independent or a separate meeting or a private meeting, as they call it, with the independent member and the chair at least once a year with the service, and just to get some comments on that. Thank you, Chair.
I think that Chief Executive is going to respond.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Brona, for your comments there. And just to clarify that the newly titled Chief Audit Executive will report directly to the Chair of Audit Committee, as is the existing case, albeit the title was slightly different. So that will further reinforce the independence of the internal audit section. Hope that answers your query, Brona.
Yes, indeed, Chief Executive. Thank you, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments, Councillor Logue?
No, just to congratulate the team for getting the result in this report. It's very, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else, members? Or if not, do we have a proposer and a seconder for said recommendation? Councillor Norris.
I'll say.
Seconded. Councillor Logue. Thank you, members. In that regard, members, the remaining 3 items are open for information, and we will just run through them. And if you wish to raise an answer or raise a question, we can do that. Item 14 is the proper arrangements for 24-25. No comments, members. Item 15 is the new global internal audit standards and application note. And item 16 is a performance improvement corporate plan and improvement plan 25-26. And that regards, members, that is our meeting drawn to conclusion. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.